Welcome to Pioneer TV Pregame.
Tonight, the Mooresville Pioneers face off against the Roncalli Royals. Thank you for joining us on Pioneer TV Pregame. My name is Ethan Moore, and joining me is Jared Kempf.
With the Pioneers' win against Indianapolis, Washington last week in the first sectional round, their current record is 5-5.
In that game, Hogadini threw 3 complete passes of 5 attempts for 49 yards and had 2 carries for 38 yards on the ground. Levi Dorn caught 2 passes for 32 yards and had 2 receiving touchdowns. Christopher Corthius had 8 carries for 141 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. Caden Brune and Gavin Gott caught an interception each. Both Tyler Rakeshaw and Caden Lamberton collected a quarterback sack.
Tonight is the 4A sectional semifinals. Let's look at the Pioneer season schedule and scores. In Week 1, they lost 29-34 against Bloomington North. Week 2, they won 28-12 against Danville. Week 3, they lost 15-31 against Plainfield. Week 4, they won 59-22 against Greenwood. Week 5, they lost 21-27 against Decatur Central. Week 6, they lost 26-29 against Franklin Community. Week 7, they won 21-7 against Whiteland. Week 8, they lost 35-38 against Martinsville. In Week 9, they won 24-14 against Perry Meridian. And last week, they won 55-0 in the first round of sectionals against Indianapolis, Washington.
Let's look at some of the Mooresville's key players. Mooresville quarterback Hogadini has a 54.1 pass completion percentage, 186.2 yards a game, 20 passing touchdowns, 8 pass interceptions, along with 1,017 rushing yards, which earns him 101.7 rushing yards a game and has 13 rushing touchdowns.
Next, there are senior Levi Dorn and junior Caden Bruin. Caden Bruin has 321 receiving yards and 3 receiving touchdowns. Levi Dorn leads the Pioneers with 669 receiving yards. He also has 10 receiving touchdowns.
Senior Landon Clements leads the Pioneers with 77 tackles and 7.7 tackles per game. He has 2 sacks. He also has 523 rushing yards and 52.3 rushing yards per game. He has 6 rushing touchdowns.
Senior Tyler Church for the Pioneers has 2,570 kickoff yards and 238 punt yards. He's made 31 out of 32 PAT kick attempts and has only made 1 field goal out of 4.
So, Jared, obviously, Pioneers heading into this game against Roncalli definitely have had a up and down season to say the least, but coming off a big game last week, putting up 55 points, not allowing a single point. Definitely an up and down season, but they're definitely getting momentum going right now.
Yeah, definitely, coming off you get 1 win at the last against Perry Meridian, and then coming to the sectionals, feeling a little bit of confidence, a little bit of not necessarily a bad team, but more so looked, and Clips apparently the better team, winning 55-0. Gives them more confidence going against Roncalli here this week.
Definitely coming off back-to-back wins and heading against a matchup and a team that really, when they've played, Roncalli's really gotten the better end of them multiple times when they have faced. And Mooresville coming off back-to-back wins, they really haven't needed to rely on Hogadini in the passing game a lot. Last game, he only threw for 5 passing attempts and had a couple completions, but their run game was really strong and their defense stepped up when they needed it to.
Yeah, the last 2 games, the defenses really came out and showed up. Like against Whiteland, they only gave up 7 points and won by 14. Against Perry Meridian, they won 24-14. The defense showed up again there. The main thing for the offense to get down there and score, which they haven't relied on except for the rushing attack, is the defense needs to step up.
The game is only about 15 minutes away. Stay tuned for more Pioneer TV pregame show. We'll be right back after this break.
When I'm not racing at the track, I do like to take things a little bit slower. But even with my foot off the gas, I'm still driven to save lives. So if you're like me and you like hunting and fishing, you could do something to save lives too. Just say yes to being an organ donor when you get your hunting or fishing license online, or when you renew your Indiana driver's license. Join the 4 million Hoosiers who have signed up to save lives. Here, fishy, fishy, fishy.
Welcome back to Pioneer Pregame. The Pioneers played against Roncalli in 2020 for the semi-state championship. Mooresville lost that game 14-42. During that game, the Pioneers had a 44.7 pass completion percentage, 208 passing yards, 32 rushing carries for 121 rushing yards, 208 receiving yards, 2 rushing touchdowns, and 0 receiving touchdowns.
Roncalli had a 58.3 pass completion percentage, 44 passing yards, 49 rushing carries for 387 rushing yards, 44 receiving yards, 1 sack, 95 tackles, 6 rushing touchdowns, and 0 receiving touchdowns.
Roncalli won against Indianapolis Shortridge last week in the first sectional round 42-0, making their current record now 4-6. Now let's look at the Royal season schedule. In week 1, they won 43-20 against Southport. In week 2, they lost 6-20 against Franklin Central. Week 3, they lost 7-14 against Indianapolis Bishop Chatard. Week 4, they won 38-10 against Columbus North. Week 5, they won 35-21 against Guerin Catholic. Week 6, they lost 23-39 against Brebeuf. Week 7, they lost 0-43 against Mail. Week 8, they lost 0-42 against Cathedral. Week 9, they lost 7-41 against East Central. And last week, they won 42-0 in the first round of sectionals against Indianapolis Shortridge.
Now let's look at some of Roncalli's key players. Roncalli's quarterback, Colin Ash, has a 54.3 pass completion percentage, 95.5 yards per game, 8 passing touchdowns, and 6 pass interceptions.
Christian Sweezy leads the Royals with 243 receiving yards and 24.3 yards a game. He has 2 receiving touchdowns.
Next, there's Zach Dozer and Benjamin Brandenburg. Zach Dozer leads the Royals with 377 rushing yards and 37.7 rushing yards a game. He has 5 rushing touchdowns. Benjamin Brandenburg has 328 rushing yards and 32.8 rushing yards a game. He has 4 rushing touchdowns.
On defense, Casey Horton leads the Royals with 48 tackles and 4.8 tackles per game. He has 1 quarterback sack.
Levi Weisler has 1,910 kickoff yards and 1,492 punt yards. He's made 21 out of 22 PAT attempts and 2 field goals out of 4 attempts.
So Roncalli, same with the Pioneers in the first round of sectionals. Big offensive performance, not allowing a single point. But you look at the end of that season schedule, it's completely different from Mooresville. In the last 3 games, Roncalli's offense was really bad. They only put up 7 points combined, and they let up a lot of points. So Roncalli needed that big win yesterday, but it's definitely going to be interesting how they attack the Pioneers today.
Yeah, their offense has definitely struggled throughout the whole year. As you see in the last 4 games, a tough loss to Brebeuf. And then their offense kind of stalled, and their defense wasn't really getting any stops. So definitely that last week, get that jump start from the offense helps and gets back some confidence for them.
Yeah, not only has Roncalli suffered on offense and defense, but their schedule definitely has been hard. In those last 3 games, they played against some tough opponents. They played Mail, who's second in Kentucky. Cathedral's always a strong team, but when you're playing against difficult opponents late in the season, it's still important to show some flashes, but offensively and defensively, they really haven't been able to do so.
Yeah, playing against somebody in Kentucky out of state, it's always hard there. Cathedral, it's really hard to beat them. And then East Central, the state champions, they have a lot of confidence coming in this year, looking to maybe go back out there and win another state championship.
Yeah, their offense on passing has been really weak. And then the run game, they really haven't been able to rely too heavily on that. And Mooresville's been weak when stopping the run throughout the entire season. So Roncalli's offense needs to get things going, but their defense has definitely been lackluster. The pass rush isn't as good as you'd want it to be. The leading guy on that team only has 1.5 sacks on the season. So that pass rush and front 7 definitely needs to be stronger.
Yeah, but we saw exactly how it was last time they played in 2020 semi-state championship game. Roncalli, all their touchdowns came off of rushing. They didn't have a lot of passing yards. In fact, the Pioneers had more passing yards than them, but about 300 less rushing yards and had 4 less rushing touchdowns. So definitely rushing is a big part of Roncalli's attack.
The game is 10 minutes away. Stay tuned for more Pioneer TV pregame. We'll be right back after this break.
The benefits of choosing a career in the union construction industry are truly limitless.
Some of the things that I've worked on that I'm extremely proud of are some of the pipe racks that we just built for Eli Lilly.
Yeah, there's a lot of different avenues to grow and to advance in your career.
If you're a senior and college isn't for you, in the trades there's so many opportunities. You get to work with your hands, you get trained for free, and the options are unlimited. You can do so many different things with this career.
Welcome back to Pioneer Pregame. Now let's look at both teams' current season comparison. Mooresville offense has 171 passing completions, 23 passing touchdowns, 51 rushing touchdowns, 2,959 total rushing yards, and 2,483 total passing yards. Mooresville's defense has 16 interceptions, 16.5 sacks, 7 fumble recoveries, and 903 total tackles.
Roncalli's offense has 86 passing completions, 8 passing touchdowns, 16 rushing touchdowns, 1,247 total rushing yards, and 869 total passing yards. On defense with 7 interceptions, 6 sacks, 2 fumble recoveries, and 443 total tackles.
Yeah, something to point out with those stats, you can definitely see that Mooresville's offense and defense has definitely been stronger throughout the season. As you see, Roncalli, their offense hasn't even eclipsed 1,000 passing yards, and their defense, not many sacks on the season, not many interceptions whatsoever. But Mooresville, when it comes to forcing a turnover when it's needed most, they've definitely been important in that category.
Yeah, look at it from both standpoints, offense and defense. Roncalli is the underdog, but it doesn't mean that they can't go out and maybe try and upset Mooresville. But it's definitely going to be a good game tonight.
Yeah, it'll definitely come down to coaching. Both teams have a good coach, so it's definitely a lot of pregame going for both of them because Mooresville knows that Roncalli, they've had their number as of recent, but Mooresville, they haven't had a great season so far, but we can definitely expect them to run the ball a lot. And when they run the ball, it opens up the passing game for them, and that's really at their strength because Hogan Denny, he can run the ball, he can pass the ball, so they can use a lot of quarterback read options and pitches and able to play through his strings. And when they've done that, Mooresville's found a lot of success.
Yeah, Mooresville definitely the connection with Hogan Denny and Levi Dorn. Levi Dorn almost 700 yards and has about 6 or 7 touchdowns he's caught. So definitely he's kind of the big outlier in the Mooresville offense along with Hogan Denny and Landon Clements.
Yeah, definitely to see Levi Dorn getting involved today, especially with him being a great red zone threat. He doesn't have many yards as maybe you want out of your number one guy, but he's still been really solid in that category. But when it comes to the end zone, he's one of the best red zone threats in the Mid-State Conference. We saw him last Friday have 2 touchdowns and only 2 receptions. So he's definitely a big guy in that end zone. And for Roncalli, their defense definitely going to have to play aggressive, trying to limit this Mooresville offense. But you're definitely going to see them run the ball a lot. Not only have they had success running the ball against Mooresville in the past, but Mooresville's run defense this year is not better than what it has been in past.
Yeah, Roncalli, their whole offense is built on the rushing. They only pass when they need to, and especially with a weak Mooresville front, you can expect a lot of rushing from Roncalli and maybe a lot of successful attempts too.
Yeah, Roncalli's offense definitely been lackluster. Passing game has not been going well throughout the season. Rushing game has been a bit inconsistent at times, but it's just a matter of finding rhythm throughout the game. Just need to start off strong and just make Mooresville play from behind.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be a high-scoring game tonight with both offenses hopefully clicking and getting a lot of points for a shootout, of course.
Thank you for watching Pioneer TV pregame. Now it's time for tonight's game.